taking time out of your evening. It is much appreciated. If people can grab a seat, then we can begin the meeting, which means we get home in time to maybe eat dinner. All right. Good evening. Welcome to the special meeting on October 2023. It's skipping?
Yeah, you're skipping.
I hear I'm skipping. All right, testing 1, 2, 3. Is that better? Okay. I may need to be on top of the microphone, so I'll do that. It is 7:03, so thank you guys for coming out on time. Close to skipping again. Swap out microphones. How about this one? This one working better? So far? So far, all right. I need to get away from it? Oh. All right, when I get away from it, I'll be on top of it then. And I put that microphone right there at that stand. All right. I'm going to call the meeting to order. The return of the warrant shows that it has been properly served. And we have how many registered voters here tonight? 106. Thank you all. First of all, before we begin, I would like to ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And as usual, I'm going to introduce the people sitting at the boards up at the tables up here. Select Board, Amy Parsons, Chair. Joyce Chungalo, Jane Nevin-Smith, Molly Keegan, Randy Iser. Town Administrator Carolyn Brennan. Put your hand up. I wonder who threw the tomatoes at. Okay, there you go. All right. Town Council. We have Lisa Mead and Matt Provencher. Town Clerk Jessica Spanknable. Finance Committee Chair David Phil, Amy Fiden, Andrew Klepacki, and Paul Benjamin and Shardul Pamar could not make it tonight, but they would be there, but they could not make it. And I am your moderator, Kirk Watley. I want to thank Hadley Media for setting up the sound and being able to pick things up. I'd like to thank the Mothers Club for being here again. They are in the back. Please stop around sometime and patronize them. They would certainly appreciate it. All right, thank you all again for coming out. The meeting will be conducted by town meeting time. Slightly different than Robert's rules, but we will be doing town meeting time. If you wish to speak to an article, come on up to the microphone. Wait to be recognized by the moderator. If you're wearing a mask, I ask, but you don't have to, but I ask that you pull it down while speaking. Just makes it easier to hear you, that's all. State your name and your residential address, and then you are free to comment. Please keep all comments relative to the article or motion at hand. Please respect each other. Do not refer to anyone by name except using previous speaker instead. And direct all your comments to the moderator. You may speak as many times as you feel necessary, but please give others a chance to speak before returning to the microphone. Amendments must be submitted in writing to the moderator as soon as the amendment is offered. And for those of you that were at the town meeting last time, I'm going to heed my own advice this time. Please silence your cell phones. For those that weren't here, I was chasing my phone because the alarm was going off and I couldn't figure out how to shut the stupid thing off. All right, before we begin, I will entertain a motion to allow department heads and others who are not registered voters of Hadley to be allowed to address the town meeting from time to time for information. Is there a motion? So moved. Second.
Second.
Any conversation? Seeing none, all in favor, please hold up your cards. Awesome. Those opposed, put them down. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, let's get into the meat of things. Article 1, and I'm going to be reading these in motion form, so I'll be looking for a second, then we'll engage in conversation. Move the town vote to amend fiscal year 2024 annual budget from $20 million. Yes, 20, that's why I didn't read right. $20,461,072 to $20,750,736. And as funded therein, raise and appropriate and transfer from available funds the amount in Table A1 as presented at the October 26, 2023 special town meeting and incorporated by reference. This is recommended by the Finance Committee 300. 2 people were not in attendance, and the Select Board recommends 500. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Does anyone wish to address this, or, pardon me? You got it? Okay.
I can address it.
What are we doing here?
Did you want me to explain first?
Yes, please.
I'm sorry?
Can I explain that?
Yes.
I can do it from here. Good evening.
But before we begin, Carol, Edwin, just for, if you do the microphone, please, procedural. You've been doing this a long time.
I have. Edwin Matusco, 116 Stockbridge Street. Could we have an explanation as to what we're doing here?
Yep,
Thank
I
you.
have that for you. Right. Okay if I stand here? Yeah? Okay. Article 1 amends the FY fiscal year 2023 general budget as passed at the annual, 24, at the annual town meeting held on May 4th, 2023. So that first line is the Treasurer Budget Capital Software Program. That software program is called ClearGov, and it's an operational budgeting software which eliminates kind of the headaches of the typical budgeting process and where errors can happen, namely the time-consuming error-prone steps of consolidating data from multiple spreadsheets and going back and forth with department heads, which provides efficiency and eliminates redundancy. One of the most important parts of it is absolutely going to help us with our successful succession plan so that this software can be easily adapted by someone who's if someone's retiring or leaving, the next employee can learn that quickly. The legal expenses, these increases reflect the legal support that is needed to negotiate. We had 2 new collective bargaining units that were formed this year, as well as several new legal matters came to play, which it caused that increase. Now, you do see 2 attorneys here. We do have a discount tonight, and that's buy one, get one free. So we are watching our costs. So the building operations, the IT and the computers, it's a replacement of about 16 computers that need to be replaced, as well as about 4 laptops, and that also includes the licenses, monitors, and other related items to those new computers. The insurance deductibles, a few years ago, we increased our deductibles for significant savings each year on our insurance coverage. In the event of a loss, the insurance company will pay the loss minus the deductible. So in order to complete a repair, we must fund the amount of the deductible. Should we have no losses, that money goes back into the general fund. The police cruiser, this is something we've been working towards, having that cruiser in the operating budget every year since it's replaced every year instead of putting that out as a capital request. The Board of Health mosquito control fee, it was an oversight and did not get put in the budget for this year, so that's in the budget now. And the last one is salary adjustments. As I mentioned earlier, 2 new collective bargaining units were formed this year. One of them impacts several departments. You'll see what some of those increases were. There was an additional sheet that talks about Article 1, and it breaks down the multiple departments of where those impact of the negotiations came from. It also does include some employees that don't have a contract and are not eligible for that union, that we want to honor to have those, they be able to have those increases as well. So that's what that last number is, and that's it. Is there any other questions?
Seeing no more questions, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your red card. Thank you. You can put those down. All those opposed? Motion 1 passes. Article 1 passes, excuse me. Article 2, move the town transfer from funds from various accounts as delineated in Article 2.1 of the special town meeting warrant, October 26, 2023, and incorporated by reference herein. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Carolyn, you're up again.
Article 2 is, you're familiar with this if you've been to other town meetings. This is a housekeeping article that amends old capital budgets and old borrowing authorizations where projects were approved, but the amount needed was less than was budgeted. The surplus is returned to the original funding source, or where there was surplus borrowing authorized, the reduced amount must also be authorized.
Any questions? Seeing none, move to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your red card. Thank you. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. 2.2, motion, the town vote to reappropriate funds from completed projects as delineated in Article 2.2 of the special town meeting warrant on October 26, 2023, and incorporated by reference. Is there a second? Yeah, when I read it in motion form, so we just need a second to begin conversation on that. And let's see, Finance Committee recommends 500, Select Board recommends 500. Carolyn, is this you again?
I explained it. I was explaining both of them with that.
All right, both of
Yes.
them. All right, so we just happen to have two different votes for the same thing.
Yes. One's
Okay.
borrowing, yes.
Okay, so two different votes, basically accomplishing the same thing. Are there any questions on 2.2? Seeing none, move to a vote. If you're in favor, please raise your red card. Thank you. You can put those down. Opposed, raise your red card. Unanimous. Article 3, capital articles. Move the town vote to appropriate $310,000 for expenses associated with capital projects as delineated in Article 3 of the special town meeting warrant article, October 26, 2023, and incorporated herein, by reference herein, and said and fund appropriate to transfer $85,000 from free cash, $5,000 from the Hadley Media Reserve, and the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, is authorized to borrow $225,000 under and pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 7(1) of the general laws, or any other enabling authority, or any other statutory authority to issue bonds and notes thereof. Capital Planning recommends 302. I believe those are two people that were not present. Finance Committee, 500. Select Board, 500. Is there a second? Second. So moved and seconded. Article 3, Mr. Iser.
Good evening, everybody. I have a procedural question, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
There are 4 items in this article that we are looking to spend money on. 3 of them require a majority vote, and 1 requires 2/3 majority. Are we going to treat it all as 2/3 majority and vote it all at once?
If no one opposes that, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so as I said, there's 4 items contained in this article. The first one is for the town hall needs a new server. The current server is 7 years old. Life expectancy is 3 to 5 years. This is funded by free cash and has no impact on taxes. Second item is a dispatch computer-aided emergency medical dispatch protocol. That's for the public safety complex. A grant has been submitted to fund this software, but this is a contingency plan if the grant is denied. This is funded by free cash and has no impact on taxes. Item number 3, Hadley Media is looking to replace some of their equipment, upgrade and replace. This is funded by the Hadley Media Reserves and has no impact on taxes. And finally, DPW schematic design. And a schematic design is the first phase of project design and provides the framework for foundation for the remainder of the design. This will be funded by borrowing within the levy and has no impact on taxes. I think the first 3 items are pretty self-explanatory. The last one, Jim Maximowski, chairman of the DPW Feasibility Study Committee, will give a short presentation on that.
Jim, you're up.
Thank you. All right, we'll leave it there. The committee was formed in 2022 with the idea to look at replacing the existing DPW facility. The members are Tom Quinlan, Scott McCarthy, Gary Berg, Andy Klepacki, Randy Iser, Walt Sykowski, myself, Carolyn Brennan, she's a town administrator, she does not have a vote, and the consulting firm that we use, a company called Wesson and Sampson, and they also have no vote. Anyways, the existing town facility, town garage, was occupied in 1971, and it was designed in 1970. OSHA, I'll get to this one, why it's important in a few minutes. OSHA was created in April of 1971, and this garage was under construction. So it was designed and under construction prior to the enactment of the OSHA committee, or the OSHA regulation. I think they were created in late April 1971. The building was designed to hold approximately 6 dump trucks and probably a couple of small pickup trucks. And at that time, it was only a highway department. It was not a DPW department. In mid-1970s, the sewer line was expanded to the North Hadley all the way to Stockbridge Road. The town water was expanded to the South Hadley town line, and there was a number of small subdivisions that were applied for and were being approved and constructed from the mid-1970s on. There was no single large subdivision, but a lot of these small subdivisions, all the roads for the majority of them have been accepted by the town as a town road. All of these services required more people, more equipment, et cetera, and this town garage, the highway garage, was beginning to hire more people and more equipment to take care of all of these things. In early 2000, the sewer, water, and highway were combined into the DPW. There are some issues with the existing facility, obviously. There's not enough space to store a lot of equipment. There's not enough space to adequately store plain old parts and oil, et cetera. And even though those are pretty messy right there, one of the problems is, well, if you don't have enough room, it's very difficult to try to keep it always organized and clean. The overhead doors, the building itself is only about maybe 12 foot high on the inside. Therefore, the overhead doors are a little over, what, Scott, maybe 11 foot 4, 11 foot 6, give or take. And equipment nowadays, especially the new vac truck, is probably 12 foot, so it doesn't fit in the building. And you can see it right there, that it doesn't fit into the building. It's long. It doesn't fit into the sewer department. That itself creates some problems because during the winter, that thing has to be winterized. That's just like you'd winterize your RV or your mobile home. Drain the water, take the plugs out, put antifreeze in and flush it to make sure that it doesn't freeze and crack. That's one thing. If somebody has a sewer backup during the winter, guess what? This truck is utilized. Now you got to drain the antifreeze, put the plugs back in. Meanwhile, the poor person has got the sewer backup. Those upstream of that person don't care. And they're flushing the toilet, and some poor bugger is, well, it's a mess. Enough said. I'm not trying to be funny, but I mean, it's not funny, but it's real life, okay? There's inadequate office space. The current offices are in office trailers because of all the additional departments and everything else that were added to the DPW. There's no handicap access. If somebody, the public, wants to come in and talk to somebody in the DPW, say, "Hey, I got a concern," or "I got a voice, I want to ask you about this," there's no real space to meet with people. They go into the office trailers. Well, if you're handicapped and doesn't take a lot, they've got to come outside to talk to you. Just a lot of inconveniences. It's very inadequate. There's no proper place to store used or new oil storage. The salt shed is wood. It's old. It is deteriorating simply because of age and the salt and everything else. The fuel pump island is also old. The pumps are getting worn out. They may not pump the way they have to. A lot of these, there's no adequate break room. There's no adequate locker room for the employees. There is one stall bathroom with a urinal in it besides, so there's really a lack of a lot of facilities. A lot of these regs are required by OSHA and other health and safety things. It doesn't meet them. That's why I mentioned that this was designed and built before OSHA, because some of these things are grandfathered, some of them are not. And sooner or later, things are going to have to be brought up to meet the current specs, either with this facility. The new one will obviously be designed for the rules and laws. The plan is to reuse the existing garage, take down the salt shed, remove the the fuel island, and move both of those as new new fuel pump and new salt shed, basically to the northerly side of the existing DPW garage. And where the salt shed and fuel island are is to create a new facility that would have a maintenance bay, a storage bay, and an adequate office space for the employees, as well as the proper break room, locker room, facilities for wash-up, et cetera, et cetera. To do this, we've been studying various places, and we looked at other areas in town. One of the things that the committee had very strong feelings on was not to take prime farmland and put it into a DPW facility. There are a few places available, but really it wouldn't fit well on what was available, and we don't want to split the north end of town and this town. Now you've got the DPW. Let's say we built it at the North Hadley Garage area, where it's not large enough there to put the entire facility. So you'd have some there and some at the Middle Street facility, and it's very difficult to manage two facilities and split your employees. You're going to have to hire, I don't know how it would work out, but it wouldn't work well. There is enough room on the existing site to put this new garage and office area and locker room. What is schematic design? The schematic design is a 25% design of the site. It includes, a whole bunch of stuff. That's a busy slide up there. Let's see. It includes a 25% design, including wetlands, delineation of wetlands, shows basic interior spaces, exterior. It has existing condition with boundaries and provides basically a good basic design where an estimator could come in and give a good, accurate, reasonably accurate price on what it would cost to construct this. The prices we have right now are the Weston & Sampson has built a number of DPW garages all over the state. Almost all of them were built before COVID. In fact, all of them were built before COVID. They haven't taken there's a few facilities that they built that are comparable in size to what we would like. So they've taken those prices, added an inflation number, and come up with, it's going to be about this. Well, to come to town meeting and ask for, it's about this, doesn't do us any good, doesn't do you any good, and to be honest, it's so expensive, I wouldn't vote for it. The state is looking to there's a number of communities across the state that need facilities similar to this. And they're looking to propose I'm not sure you would call it, but a grant, for lack of a better term, similar to schools where the town would put up so much, the state would put up so much. It's in legislature right now. Where it's going to go, we don't know. But we're hoping it's successful. We're hoping it comes through. And therefore, by the time we get a design, hopefully they'll have something going with that. That's it. Questions?
It's a lot to digest. Any questions?
Edwin Matusko, 116 Stockbridge Street. Hi, Jim. Hey, are you going to build bigger doors, garage doors on this facilities?
The garage doors will be at minimum 14 or 15 feet high and adequate to put in the equipment. And the building will be tall enough so that we can put in any legal existing vehicle, and wide enough, especially the new dump truck that we just got with the wing plows won't fit with the plow on it, won't fit through the door.
Yeah, you're comfortable pulling it down? I mean, just so it's easier to
Andy
hear you.
Morris, Friedman, 45 Roosevelt Street. I have a process question about this warrant article. The first three expenditures are relatively small, and the fourth one is really big. I would feel more comfortable if we could vote on the first three and then vote on the one for the DPW separate. Was there a reason why the select board decided to gang them together?
We can pull the DPW one out very easily, just make a motion. Was there?
It's on the back table. The form's on the back table.
There's a form on the back table to fill out, Andy.
Oh, the
Well, I
motion.
just wondered if there was a particular reason why you did it. I don't know if I want to take up town meeting time with this.
Oh, there we go, okay. You can use that microphone, Linda.
Okay, last year, this same article was $1.8 million large. If you were here last year, you recall we had a very, very long list of items that were needed, a lot of it for DPW, but for others as well. And what we decided last year was that we would present each year to you a capital budget, similar to when you pass the operational budget for $22 million, you're passing a capital budget for the needs that year. So you see the total of this article is substantially less than last year, which is what we said last year. It was going to be greatly reduced. We needed to get these things in the pipeline. We needed to get orders placed. We needed to get certain replacements done and take advantage of prices before they went up any further. And so we passed it all in a single motion. There was borrowings. There were borrowings payable back from free cash, from water reserves, from sewer reserves, and we did transfers from free cash, from water reserves, and from sewer reserves. And we spent $1.8 million. And similar to this year, that was all paid, that's all payable either with cash that we have, or the borrowing items are paid with the debt out of the operational budget on our debt and interest line. Within the levy, that means there's no addition to taxes. Unlike there'll be articles following this where you will be voting on, you'll be going to the ballot if it passes tonight and doing a debt exclusion, meaning that the taxes will go up to accommodate the payments on those items, the debt and the interest, to pay that each year. But we have a budget in our operational budget. One of the line items is debt and interest, and included in debt and interest is $500,000 worth of payments within the levy. And the payment on this $225,000 fits within the budget. It would extend it. We pay $500,000 a year. This will take us out halfway into 3 years from now. It is a large item, larger than others, but not as large as what we passed last year. And we are really sticking with the plan, and it seemed to work well last year to do a single vote on our capital budget, and I ask that you do that again this year. Thank you.
Andy, does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. Just a quick comment on the project. I support this, and I support the DPW. It seems like a lot of money, but these days everything is expensive. The longer we wait, the more expensive it gets. So let's do all the preliminary work, and if the state money comes through, we'll be first in line.
Michelle Morris Friedman, 45 Roosevelt Street. I support this project also. I just have a question about whether you're including climate issues in the planning, because we can expect increased rain and increased flooding of the Connecticut. I don't know whether it's in, what floodplain it's in, if it's in the 50 or 100 year. And I would hope, if you haven't done it already, that you, like a lot of places that are building new, take that into account so that we're not doing salvage in 3 or 10 years on it.
Building code, and Mr. Quinlan could answer this much better than myself, but the new building code is pretty elaborate, leave it at that. And that includes all kind of stuff that you couldn't imagine has to be included in residential and commercial buildings. But as far as the floodplain, this is above, I believe this is above the 100-year floodplain. Never say never. It could flood, but all those items you just requested are part of the design, and especially the schematic design.
Peter Matusko, 19 Miller Street. My question is for this. I could see the pumps being old. Do they just need to be upgraded and just replaced? When you're talking about getting new and replacing, I can see the salt shed being replaced. We're going to be spending millions and millions of dollars to air condition a plow truck that's outdoors. You've got a building, which we can see that's partially driven in through is that the water department shed? That to raising the garage doors on that, insulating that building, and spending a fraction of the money and having that being stored inside for, once again, putting every single vehicle that we have for a fleet inside so it can be heated. That to me just seems, a lot of spending money for vehicles that are outdoors anyway. As long as within the last town meeting that I talked about, having the vehicles undercoated, which I went to the town garage already last week or 2 weeks ago. I've seen those dual axle vehicles. They're not undercoated. I'm seeing rust on the leaf springs. I'm seeing rust on the carriage bolts. We got to do with the maintenance that we have now instead of just wanting to buy new. We keep on wanting new. Why don't we upkeep with what we have and making a little bit of provisions instead of putting the town $30 million or whatever it costs with the 3 buildings that we've already bought 4 years ago that we're paying for that everybody's now having to see. That's it.
The existing building, the inside height of the existing building is probably 12 feet. To raise the roof, I guess anything would be possible, but the building itself is not large enough to store equipment inside. It has to be larger to store we want to keep the equipment. One of the problems with the equipment is it's always outside. We'd like to keep it inside, especially in inclement weather, like to put a vehicle wash in to help wash the salt off in the winter. Right now, the washing is done outside. It's only a matter of time before DEP comes along and says you can't do that anymore. You either stop washing or it's got to be done inside. So there's a lot of things that are coming down the road that even if this facility isn't built or not approved, however you want to call it, there's going to be some major money expended to make this, like I said at the beginning of the talk, a lot of this doesn't meet current OSHA. Some things are grandfathered, some are not. Well, they're going to come along pretty soon, and Scott just had an OSHA visit recently and got his hand slapped because so many things do not comply. And he's working on trying to make what he can comply. So there's a lot of going on behind the scenes to do what you said, and some of this is going to have to be done even if this isn't built.
Shel Horowitz, 16 Barstow Lane. If the current building is 52 years old and we want to get at least that much out of the new one, I think it's a pretty safe bet that fossil-fueled vehicles will not be very common in the year 2071 or whatever. What provisions are you making as you design this for transition to EVs or other sources of powering vehicles?
That's not an easy question to ask, but one of the things that I'm sure it will be included in the schematic design, as opposed to a transition, it may be from the outright some of the energy efficiency things. Like I said, this is going to be a year or two out. It's going to be under the new building codes, and we may be told what kind of a heating system this gets anyways.
I wasn't talking about heating system. I was talking about the vehicles inside, how they're powered.
The vehicles...
Will there be provisions, for example, to charge an electric plow in there?
I mean, I can't answer yes or no on it because we haven't even come to that stage yet.
Well, it should be considered as you go forward.
Any other questions or comments? David. Dave, you're speaking as Finance Committee Chairman?
Yes. Hello.
Okay.
David Phil, Finance Committee, also Capital Planning Committee. When this article first came before us, it had a $3 million price tag and a projected budget of $30 million to build the facility. There was a lot of concern from both Capital Planning and the Finance Committee of whether or not the voters would go for such a big price tag. So we made the recommendation to the Select Board that we go with the $225,000 after speaking with the consultant. The idea is that if we can get a better grasp on the total cost of the project, is there a way to phase it in over time versus $30 million price tag all at once? This $225,000 and the schematic design will allow us to get a firm grasp on cost and see our options, whether we could do, maybe the voters will go for a $10 million project or a $15 million, or maybe they will go for the $30 million. We don't know until we have a firm grasp on what we need, what our options are, and what it's going to cost. So that's where this came from.
Ma'am.
Mary Norton, 42 Tremora Road. It just struck me, and it may be a ridiculous idea.
Again,
I am so sorry. Did you hear the first part?
if you could repeat it.
Mary Norton, 42 Tremora Road. And I had a sort of a idea that may not be usable at all, but the piece of equipment that is too high to go into the current facility, is there any way that that particular bay could be lowered, just that one, so that the equipment, that piece of equipment could get in?
Could you summarize what you said?
Yeah. What she basically she's asking, could somehow the floor be lowered to allow the vehicles to get in? The answer is anything is possible. All it takes is money. And be a matter of how efficient is it to do that versus something else, okay? It's probably not a reasonable thing to do because of various issues. It would be probably less expensive to raise the roof, but that is by no means a low-cost alternative. The bigger problem is the bay, it's the garage, existing highway garage was designed to hold 6 dump trucks and maybe a couple of pickup trucks. And it's just not large enough to store the vehicles we have. The vac truck that you see right there would probably take up the space of the 3 pickup truck, the 3 dump trucks. It is that big. It's almost a 40-foot long truck, and it's 8.5 feet wide. And it's a monster. But it saves the town a huge amount of money as opposed to trying to contract the services that that little truck addresses. And, I mean, the facility, the existing garage simply isn't large enough.
Any other questions or comments concerning this article?
John
Kinchla, 206 Bay Road. So I definitely agree that the DPW needs a new building and new facility. My concern is that this presentation has been very light on details as far as what has been conceived to this point in terms of dollars, in terms of space, in terms of ongoing maintenance costs like heating. I don't have a grasp on what the consultant is going to produce. Will they produce a plan that has 3 or 4 or 5 options for different sizes? Nobody has said that. So I don't know, I don't comprehend what $225,000 is giving us. My other concern is that for $30 million, which is the price tag I've heard kicked around, there's other communities, Amherst, West Springfield, nearby places that have DPWs in the pipeline, probably assuming that the same thing will happen with the grant. And the dollar per capita of that building in those communities is far less than what I have heard proposed here. So if I'm the state and I'm on the grant committee and I have competing interest for grants, that's an easy decision. Dollar for dollar, I'm going to turn down Hadley because I can get more value in the other communities per capita, you know, per $1 billion of real estate evaluation, whatever metric you want to use. I think we're not competitive at $30 million. I think we will not get funded. And it would be nice to know what actually is proposed, what this $225,000 consultant is going to be looking at. Because obviously you guys have come up with some type of concept, but that's not evident in this proposal. So I feel badly for the other groups that have been lumped in on this bill or this vote. And I think that if we were to separate it out, I don't know what would happen, and I'm not sure I'm prepared to take that step, but for me, it's a non-starter. I think that the community needs to revisit this. I've heard 6,400 square feet proposed for an office building. The DPW has a professional and administrative budget for salaries of about $150,000. The DPW has, they have an operating budget of about 1.5 million, and it's proposed to be 1.9 this year. I don't see where $30 million makes any sense in those terms. So as much work has been put into this, and as much as time is of the essence because of inflationary pressures, I'd hate to see the town spend $250,000 on a plan that doesn't get us where we need to go. Because I really don't see $30 million flying, and I don't see that being a realistic 15,000 square foot heated building. I have a lot of equipment myself. Don't keep it in a heated building, and it works just fine. So I would ask that maybe either more specifics be presented as far as what this money is going to give us at the end of the consultancy, or maybe revisit the plan. Thank you.
Regarding grants, that's what the gentleman has just said is pure conjecture, and I have no comment on that, because Hadley has applied for grants in the past, and we've received grants in the past. As far as size of the buildings, you're right, probably should have given you a little bit more information. The new existing town garage is basically 8,000 square feet. The new garage and maintenance bay would be a vehicle storage area of 16,000 square feet, a maintenance bay of 5,800 square feet, an office building, an office section of the building of 3,200 square feet. Well, actually, I take that back. It'll be 6,400 square feet combined office, locker room, restrooms, change area, et cetera, for the employees. And there would be approximately a 1,600 square foot drive-through wash bay for the trucks to drive through, much like you have a car wash, similar but it would be designed for big trucks. The schematic design, that pretty much covers what would be required, and the committee would be looking at various options. And if we have to reduce it down to get within our budget or whatever we decide, that would be determined, that has yet to be determined. So it's a little bit early to say we're going to cut it down or otherwise. Realizing, as far as the price goes, and one of the many members on the committee raised this, that I could build a garage, a Butler building for this amount of money. That may be true. But realize in the state of Massachusetts, if you, as a private business, could put a building up for X, you now start paying prevailing wage, and the price of that building is going to go up quite a bit, but that's state law. We have no choice. Any building constructed in the state that's owned by the state has to pay prevailing wage, and that raises the cost considerably.
Carolyn, you have some clarifying remarks?
Do you mind, Jim? I don't want to be I just wanted to add a couple things. I just wanted to clarify, because I do understand the concerns that were just brought up. The original, what we were going to bring to the town meeting was the original design plus the schematic fee plus the OPM fee. That was $3 million. And I think as being a part of the committee, we realized that was a really, really big amount to take on. But the most important thing, and I can just tell you, having been in that building, for the last 3 years and trying to do what we can to make it a place to work and be safe, we need to move forward with this, but we knew that $3 million was going to be too much. So when I went to the architect, who we've been working with, looking at all of the things that have been brought up today, the things that are being asked for, we can't do without a $3 million design, all of those specifics. What the schematics does is, what does Hadley need? What does Hadley need for HVAC? What does Hadley need for fire protection? What does Hadley need for the foundation and all of that stuff? That very specific. Then once that happens, it goes to an estimator. That's all they do. So it's an extremely precise estimate. Now, I'm saying that have worked with several buildings that I've been a project manager of. It's hard for me to say that. It's very precise, but it's as precise as you can get with experienced estimators. So what this is going to give you is momentum to move this project forward. It's not $3 million, but it's taking a part of that design fee and doing it in phases, which I think is more manageable. That's what we've been hearing. So this is going to provide you with extremely important, extremely valuable, it's going to be for Hadley and for this building and what DPW needs. I can't tell you how poor those conditions are. If you're not down there, you're not seeing it, but it's in bad shape. So hope that's helpful.
Any other questions or comments on the article? Seeing none, this is a 2/3 majority. So at this time, I would ask all those in favor, please raise your red cards. Thank you. You can put those down. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I see 12 opposed. You can put those down. We have 122 people in attendance, so the motion passes 110 to 12. Thank you. Article 4. Move the town appropriate $1,069,531 to pay the cost of the school locker room renovations, and to pay for said appropriation, the treasurer, with approval of the select board, is authorized to borrow said amount pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7(1), or any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds and notes therefore, and further, that the approval hereof shall not take effect until the town votes to exempt from the limitation on total taxes imposed by General Law, Chapter 59, Section 21C, Proposition 2.5. The amounts required to pay the principal of and the interest on the borrowing authorized by this article. There's a second. Capital Planning recommends 302. 2 people were absent. Finance Committee, 500. Select Board, 500. We have a motion and a second. Joyce, would you care to make comment?
Well, my first comment is, good evening, everyone. This is a debt exclusion article. If it passes at town meeting, it will go to a town ballot election in December. And right now, I'm going to turn it over to Chris and Christine Pipchinsky to speak on this article. I'm just going to say quickly, even when I was on the school committee over 21 years ago, that this was talked about. It was much needed back then, and the times and things have changed. I don't think any kids take any showers in there, and I wouldn't myself either. So, I mean, really something that is needed. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris and Chris. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Christine Pipchinsky, 151 River Drive. We have slides. You also have a handout that has pictures of the current locker rooms. I can tell you from the years of working here that they're actually much worse in person. I'd like you to look at that first one because the door swings in. And I'd like to know how many of you could think they could, like, climb out. So, you know, this has been a really long time coming. That shower, that's the boys' shower room, I think, that holds all our equipment. And then the benches are bolted to the floor, and there's not enough room for people or for the athletes to get around, unless you're in the girls' locker room where they're actually not bolted to the floor, but they tip over. Prior to this, just to, you know, remind myself of just how bad they are, I did go and take a tour of the girls' locker room. Yes, that distinctive smell is still there of mold, and it's a hazard on so many levels. The students have been, you know, good about this, but there comes a time where they deserve better. The sight line is terrible. It is a safety issue. It's impossible to keep clean. The lockers, they're lucky if I can fit my purse in it. I mean, I have a big purse, I get that, but honestly, you know, you cannot put the gym equipment in there, you can't fit your sneakers in there, and God knows we don't want the boys' sneakers sitting out because it's just terrible. I have 3 of them, I know. So this is something that has been long overdue. It's become pretty much of an embarrassment when other schools go in there. I realize it's a lot of money, but I think for the safety of our students, our student athletes, visiting athletes, we really need to get this done. So as you can see, the restrooms are small, the benches, what else did I miss? Oh, the fan that's in the picture, that's the ventilation system in the girls' locker room. That's great. And this is just a sample picture. We don't have a design. As you can see on the back, there is a comparison, but once again, that is a sample. That is not a design that's you know, been approved. We are just looking to move forward with this project. So.
Thank you. Linda, I would like you to address the tax rate change if this article passes tonight and passes the vote in the spring. Please. I think there's something important for you guys to hear.
Yeah, these were prepared actually by the assessor's office. Dan Zadanek provided them. We have 2 options, whether it's paid over 5 years or 10 years. It's not on? Oh, okay. Yeah. So we have the 5-year option and the 10-year option. I'll tell you right now, we will most likely go for the 5-year option on the locker rooms. We have 2 debt exclusions tonight. If we do the locker rooms, they'll be probably taken care of in the first year, so we'll be borrowing that right away. And we'll be wanting to take care of, get some of that debt off the books and taken care of if the second one passes. 2, That won't kick in until year 5 because of the delay in delivery and getting a fire truck ready. So at that point, we would probably start that borrowing on year 5 and continuing that on a 10-year rate. So we'll have a similar charge for this change for the second one. We were asked the other night whether we have debt coming off. Yes, we do. This actually happens to be the last year of our 2014 bond, which saves about $100,000 a year. And then then for 2 or 3 more years, we're paying the Callahan Wells at about $165,000 a year, and that will be coming off in 3 years. So we do have room for some debt exclusion items if we are going to continue at the tax rate. It will raise it, it will raise your taxes, and this will be paid for on your tax bills each year for as long as the duration. So the way you figure that is 23 cents on the average household. For the average household, value is $418,800 right now, which means it would cost that household $96 in the first year. And then if we did the longer one, it would be costing just under $60. But as I said, I'm pretty sure we're going to do the 5-year on the first one.
Linda, we had the slide presentation last night for those that attended, and a question came up I think is very important. The first year is a bit confusing. This is a 5-year term, and what does the first year cost mean as opposed to year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5?
Right. If you were to take out a loan, the interest goes down each year. So you pay the first year, you're paying the interest on the full borrowing. And so once you pay down some principal, you're going to be paying less in interest each year. So one possibility is that so the first year would be the highest that it would be. So let's say we go with the $96, and the next year we would have the option either of keeping it at the 96 and paying more of the principal down and clearing out that debt sooner, which is what we have been doing in the past. The philosophy being that we try and keep the debt exclusion charges against you as even as possible from year to year, rather than having it going up and down with each new borrowing. We try and aim to have it even, and we can do that by how we plan the amount of principal that we're paid each year. So as the principal goes down, I think what we would try and do is, as the principal goes down, yes, and the interest goes down, that we would be trying to then pay more of the principal, so we would keep an even payment for you over the years. And that way, when in the next borrowing, whether it's, let's call it the fire truck kicks in 4 or 5 years, then it would not raise your taxes as much as if we had let the tax rate drop for a few years and then it's popping up again. So we just think this is, I know for my planning purposes, oh, did I just fade? I,
It's not my cell phone. It's not my cell phone, so. Microphones, there we go, okay. It's not my cell phone. I want you guys to know that, all right? So Linda, just to be clear, so the 9632 is the high. It'll never go above that. It may go lower or it may stay constant.
correct.
Okay. For my own clarification as a homeowner too, so.
Well, let me just say, assuming, we were assuming a 6% interest rate, which right now they're about 5, so we already did sort of estimate conservatively. I mean, if we had a big jump, so I'll never guarantee it, but we think this is a pretty good estimate.
But our bond rating helps out with that.
And we think it's, our bond rating?
Our bond rating helps with the interest rate.
It does help with the interest rate, yes, but I don't actually think on a 5-year item this size, is this still working?
Yeah.
Okay. On a 5-year, we'd probably keep that in the short-term borrowing, and we would not put it into a bond, I don't think. But again, it depends on other items that are voted by town meeting and ballots over the next few years.
Okay. Any other questions or comments concerning the locker room?
Sorry. Hi, Rich. Amy Parsons, Chair of the Select Board. One thing I did want to point out that was mentioned yesterday in the public forum is that there are certain aspects that are currently in the locker rooms that are not ADA compliant, so something would have to be done anyway at some point. Just wanted to, for anyone that didn't hear yesterday, but yeah, we are kind of in violation on certain parts right now.
Thank you. Edwin, where'd you go? Okay.
Edwin Matusko, 116 Stockbridge Street. So what happens if we vote on it, if it passes now, but it loses on the ballot? What happens then?
Then it doesn't pass. If it passes tonight, and then goes to ballot and fails, it's done.
What's the town's responsibility for doing the renovation?
The select board's saying that they'll have to go back to the drawing board and try again. Any other questions or comments? Oh, hang on for a moment.
Rick Thayer, 179 Hockenham Road. So I'm just wondering if we could get some clarification on how this $1,069,000 was come to, if we don't really have a design for the project?
Chris? Oh.
Hi, Chris Desjardins, School Business Manager. We actually do have drawings for this. I think Christine misspoke. We've had drawings for years for this project. And we had Colliers come through a couple of years ago. They took a look at the entire school building to see what needed to be repaired on it. And the locker rooms was one of the items that they pointed out that obviously needed renovation. We got the pricing from them 2 years ago. They did build in an inflation factor to the pricing, which is how we arrived at the $1,069,000.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments concerning the locker room? Seeing none, we will move to a vote. This is a 2/3 majority. All those in favor, please signify by raising your red cards. Holy smokes. You can put those down. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So we are going to have, the motion passes 118 to 4. Article 5, motion the town appropriate $2,150,000 to pay for the cost of a fire department ladder truck, and to pay for said appropriation, the treasurer, with approval of the select board, is authorized to borrow said amount pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7(1), or any enabling authority, and to issue bonds and notes therefore, and further that the approval thereof shall not take effect until the town votes to exempt from the limitation of total taxes imposed to General Law, Chapter 59, Section 21C, our old favorite, Prop 2.5. The amounts required to pay the principal of and interest on the borrowing authorized by this article. Planning Committee, 212. I believe 2 people were absent for that. I think somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Finance Committee, 500. Select Board, 500. Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. And we have got Mike.
I'm going to just say one thing first as Mike comes to the mic. This is a debt exclusion article also. If it passes at town meeting, it will go also to a town ballot election in December. I've been around since the first truck that we're going to refurbish, so I guess it's time that we get a new truck, and Mike will go through that on what our needs are.
And she's got tomatoes.
Yeah, gotta get new horses for it, too.
This will
Thank
not
you.
be like the last
Thank you,
one.
Randy.
I'm going to go fast. So, did you go to the next one? So we are asking for you, first and foremost, we're asking you to reinvest in the safety of our residents, the community, and the firefighters who protect it. It was my mentors, and some of them are in the room right now, and past department leadership who identified a need for our community back in the late 90s, and researched and found a way for the fire department to provide the town with enhanced fire protection in a multi-purpose, multi-use apparatus, which is our current Engine 1, which you saw on the first slide. So just to give you some information, the first slides are about, oh, I'm sorry. First slides are about safety. And so again, ladder truck for accessing second and third floor residential spaces and commercial spaces, making it quicker and more safely for our firefighters. It provides our firefighters the ability to have immediate availability to use the aerial device instead of having to try and lug ground ladders and set them up, which inherently aren't very safe operationally. Accessing chimney fires, that's another big one. And then hazards and limited access due to all the new solar panels that we're seeing showing up on all these structures. And probably the biggest one is safety for our firefighters on lightweight construction, truss construction, where you have a lot of these solar panels that we call them firefighter killers because they fail very quickly under heat load. So that's a big concern for us. And the ladder truck allows us to operate off of the ladder rather than getting on the roof to ventilate, and we'll go into that a little bit more as well. Just to give you some examples, they told me lots of pictures, so here we go. So Greenleaves, 3-story, truss roof construction, limited access for our truck. We're on the driveway at night, all these parking spaces are full. We don't have time to get everybody out of the building, move your cars, so we're attempting to reach that roof or those windows with the ladder that we have now. This is Homewood Suites, another massive structure with new photovoltaic all over the roof. We have access points with our current ladder because that's where we can reach from. The rear of the building was designed so we can actually drive our apparatus on the grass. So the grass is rated for us to be able to drive our ladder on it. This is an example of a chimney fire we had on Frost Lane. Imagine having to climb up that roof on a typical hook ladder that we throw over the ridge. Very unsafe, dangerous, and then you see the gentleman wearing the 65 plus pounds on the ground and on the ladder, so it makes it even more difficult. This is more recently, and I believe the folks are here. Sorry. So this is an agricultural building we have on Middle Street, and we were very lucky that thank you to all of you, we have full-time staff, we were able to get there quickly, but again, you can see metal roofing, photovoltaics, and that ladder, if we weren't there quick enough, would have been in full operation trying to put the fire out in the roof line. This is not in Hadley. This is one fatality in East Bridgewater. We just wanted to give you an example of what we're facing. So again, the backside of that house, there's no way we would reach that with our current ladder truck. And you can see all the photovoltaics on it. This was also a truss roof. Sorry, solar panels. And typical roof construction now, this is what we call lightweight construction. So the house on the right is one of our newer houses up in North Hadley, and the structure is built just like you see on the left-hand side. So there's no nails, it's gusset plates, and all of these work together in tandem. Just to give you a little information on our ladders as well, so our ground ladders that we have to lug around, a 24-foot ladder for us, this isn't your typical ladder that you use to clean out the gutters. These are heavy metal ladders that we have certified annually, and a 24-foot ladder is 72 pounds, and our 35-foot that we have is 129 pounds. So depending on the lake, it can take anywhere from 2 to 6 firefighters to set that up. Approximately 10 minutes to deploy it, and again, we're talking about from getting the truck on scene, figuring out where they have to go, the conditions, if we have to lug it out back. People have trees, bushes around their homes, so that's an issue for us. Again, an aerial apparatus can be done by 1 or 2 people. We've all trained to, because we have low staff, that the driver takes care of setting up our aerial apparatus so the passengers and our firefighters in the back can start operating on the fire ground. And then New England winters, it can make it almost impossible for us to deploy our ladders. Just some more examples for you. So winter weather, this is typical of a fire ground scenario where you're working on, if you don't know that's a truss roof, if you don't have that ladder up there, that firefighter's gonna go through the roof. So folks were asking about that we were just getting a new ladder. We're not getting a new ladder, it's called a Quint, and it's the Swiss Army knife of apparatus. So it has everything, this truck has everything on it, and it's also very good for accessibility. So it has a pump. Our current truck pumps 1,500 gallons per minute. It has a 500-gallon water tank on it. It has a hose bed on it that has 1,000 feet of large diameter 4-inch hose that we hook up to our hydrants. It has ground ladders off the back, and then it has the aerial device that can be set up for rescue or for master stream. So we have a nice big deck gun on the tip of it. In a nutshell, this thing does everything. And we took some pictures so you can get an eye on it. So the picture to the left is the master stream right above that red light. And then at the tip of the ladder, the middle one shows us the tank, the white part in the center of the truck where the yellow is. And then you can see the roof ladder that we can actually deploy on the truck. So they're on the ladder deploying that roof ladder. And then the one on the right just shows you we have all the tools and also scene lighting. And then there's the, we're required by NFPA standard to have certain ladders off the back. So we have ground ladders as well, because we still have to deploy roof ladders and other ground ladders. So even though we're using our aerial, there's still other ladders that are required on scene. The back seat, we have our air packs where our firefighters get geared up. And then on the front bumper, we have a quick attack nozzle, which we usually use for dumpster fires. And then this is all the equipment. We have a full pump on it. We have actually a set of jaws on it. So if we're out on a call and we need the ability to assist with a car accident, we can do that. And everything is in this truck that we need to operate as if it was a rescue pumper or a pumper. So we did a critical assessment of it, and so again, it allows for quicker setup of rescue and master stream operations. It's access for quicker ventilation, so if there is a fire inside, we have to coordinate and get up there quickly, so we're getting heat out for the firefighters that are going in. Access for ventilation of structures greater than 2 stories that we can't reach with ground ladders. Exposure protection, so if we have a fire in one house and it's impacting the house next to it, we can use this master stream and this elevated device to actually set up a water screen to protect it. Hazmat operations, if we have to wash something down, car accident, a bigger diesel truck or some sort of gas truck. Technical rescue, and above and below grade rescue and water rescue, and scene supporting lighting. And here's some examples. This is our 206 Russell Street fire in 2013. So this is our ladder actually operating on the fire ground. So quick setup with a master stream. This is 2 of our firefighters ventilating a roof off of the ladder truck. And one of them has a roof saw and the other one's using the pick. And, sorry, that's fine. I can tell you that roof collapsed and those flames came out underneath those 2 gentlemen. Luckily, they were on that truck so that we could actually move the ladder away from the flames coming up under them. This is another example in Hadley. So we have, you have the town line drawn there for you, and there's a Hadley residence, and I believe the folks that used to live there are in here. This was a fire that was actually in Sunderland, and the amount of fire that was blasting on that right side in Sunderland was setting the bushes on fire next to the house that was in Hadley. So our ladder truck, you can see where the arrow is, was set up to create that exposure protection. So we were putting water on the fire and protecting the house. These are just some other examples that we can use the truck for. So technical rescue, there's actually a 500 tip load, so we can actually use it for technical rescue situations, getting people out of below grade situations. And then river rescue. If we needed to get out in an area that we had access to, we could deploy that ladder. So lessons learned on the current 2000, it's a 75-foot Quint. Great truck, but with all of our new larger commercial buildings and the new bigger residential properties that we have 6 hotels, 5 senior and family housing units that are 3 stories, and 1 school that is 4 stories. We currently have to back our ladder truck into the 4-story school so that we can reach the roof. This requires us to get extremely close, which is a hazard for us for collapse zones, or we have to back onto the site. And just some statistics, new homes are 29.34% larger in size prior to 2009, with more roof planes and steeper and more difficult access along with truss roofing. We just gave you some examples. 3 stories or higher requires a roof ladder. So these are statistics from Hadley. So we have 203 1-story commercial properties all the way up to 1 4-story. And then the residential homes, you can see that. We put together a separate handout for you. They're up on the desk if you want there's plenty of info and extra info for you as well. Just some more examples, the one on the left of having to ladder, and it also gives you the weights and the amount of firefighters it takes to deploy them. So our 35-foot ladder, it's a beast, and it takes a minimum of 3 of us to do it. We've done it with 2, but it's certainly not fun. And the photo on the right is the Allard Farm fire on South Maple Street, where you can see we were deploying ground ladders for access to that 3rd floor. These are just some need information. This is truly a need for us. Again, it's compact size. It allows us to get into spaces that if we had a platform ladder with a place where the firefighters can stand on the top, not very accessible to sites. You know, that's why we're looking at this Quint style truck, because it allows that access. We can go with a longer length. The 105-foot ladder would provide us with that extra reach that we need. It's going to be on almost the same length. It allows us to go up to 750 gallons of water. And it's actually less costly by $50,000 than a platform truck. So the 75-foot Quint versus our 105 and then the platform. I was asked to put some statistics in there. You can see it just allows us more water, more flexibility on not having such a long, huge truck with the platform.
Are you going to be able to fit it in your current building?
Yes, yes. Sorry.
Edwin, you're getting kind of comfortable. Come on up to the microphone, please. This is for posterity, so that if anybody goes back and looks at the minutes, they're not hearing, and Mike goes, yeah.
Edwin Matusko, 116 Stockbridge Street. You're going to fit that truck inside your current building?
That is
right
correct,
now?
yes.
Okay.
110%.
You sure?
Yes.
Or are you going to be after us in
No.
5 years?
Actually, no,
the doors.
we will not. And the doors that you saw at the DPW are actually from the fire department. We donated them.
Good.
So.
Thank you. Again, for posterity, I just wanted all of this recorded, so when somebody goes back to it, there's no issues of what was said and what wasn't said. So, Mike.
So, example, Chinese immersion school, 4 stories. Go ahead.
Someone say something, or?
Oh.
No? Okay.
Just more examples of what we're protecting in town. Go ahead. This is a barn fire we had up in December of 15 in North Hadley, and you can see our ladder truck set up. Go ahead. And another Hadley barn fire where we were actually using our ladder to protect the exposure, which is the house on the right. And this was an aerial operation we did because nobody else could fit, so our truck was there first, cutting trees and getting access to the roof. So now the bad part. The money. So this capital request actually went in 2014, and the estimated cost was $1.15 million at that time. I was requested by the select board at the time to get that into capital. And so for the 2023-2024 capital request, that truck is now coming in. This is from the manufacturer at $2 million. Again, sorry I don't set the prices, but, and then the $150,000 is for the refurbishment of our existing 2,000 Seagraves. And I'll go into that in a moment. So the design build timeframe for the new ladder would be 36 to 38 months. And that's if it's ordered by the end of this year, and the cost would be locked in at that time. EPA emissions are changing. They're actually starting to change now. Our trucks run extremely clean. They have afterburners basically on them with DEF fluid. And if we don't do something, we're looking at a minimum of $80,000 to $125,000 increase in 2024 because the engines are completely changing. So this is just some information on ISO, so your insurance for your homes. They do an assessment of what we have for fire protection. And this should be in your flyer, but there would be, if we decided not to have a ladder truck in Hadley, it would impact your insurance rates. And then, so this is that ladder truck we were talking about refurbishing. So this truck has a 1,500 gallon minute pump, 500 gallons, has a hose bed, everything that the new truck would have. And this So this truck, following the estimated delivery of fiscal year 2028, so we'll be operating this 2,000 ladder truck through 2028. So we would have that truck evaluated by our dealership to make sure that it's worth investing the $150,000 into it, which from what they're telling us, because we work our tails off to try and make it so that we're building 30-year trucks at a minimum. Once the refurb is completed, that truck would move up to North Hadley and replace a 2006 Seagraves pumper that we have there. And basically, we would be pushing off coming back and requesting a new pumper from you, which we have slated for fiscal year 2028 capital. So this would provide extra protection in North Hadley, and having spoken with the folks that do these refurbs, we would be looking at hopefully another additional 10 years of life onto that truck. So if we get the new truck in fiscal year 2028, you can then add another 10 years to that. So we would be pushing off any future requests for a pumper, unless something catastrophic happened. Obviously, I can't guarantee. But so in the current estimate, as of today, speaking with the chief who just ordered one, a new pumper, base model, nothing special on it, nothing on it, is $1.069 million. So that's what we have. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, you're about half an hour off last time's measure, so good job.
Shell Horowitz, 16 Barstow Lane. Chief, can you explain why it takes so many years to get a truck into service once it's ordered?
Yeah, so the engineering alone can take a year. Just putting together, there's so many moving parts in the truck, and storage space, and putting together how you want your pump laid out, how you want your hose lines laid out. So it's not really a boilerplate thing. We design it so that it meets what we need in Hadley, and that it's going to provide the longest life for that vehicle. So for example, the 2016 rescue pumper that we combined into one truck, we put galvanized frame rails on it. So we do some customized things to try and get the maximum time and life out of it.
Hi, Andy Morris Friedman, 45 Roosevelt Street. I support this warrant article. God forbid if my house should ever catch fire, I want the fire department to have the best possible equipment. But I would encourage people, after you vote yes, is to get your neighbors to go to the polls and vote yes on the town-wide vote. How many times have we voted up something in town meeting just to see it to go down in the election? So please vote yes. We don't want to see the fire truck go down in flames.
Joe Matuska, 116 Stockbridge Street.
Joe, a little bit closer to the microphone.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Question. How come we need a new fire truck when we can get away with a used ambulance?
We can get away with that because the ambulance that we received from the city of Northampton has the same impeccable service as my firefighters do on the equipment that we have in Hadley. And then the gentlemen and ladies that work for the Hadley Fire Department spend hundreds of hours working on that truck, going through it top to bottom to make sure that it was ready to provide you with the best possible service. And I mean, it looks pretty brand new to me. I do understand your concern about if we could refurbish and keep it going for another 10 years. My concern is, what's the next price tag going to be? And we also are really desperate to have that extra length of that ladder with, I mean, since I've been here, the amount of construction that's happened with Home Depot, Lowe's, all these huge hotels, we're really in need of that extra length on the ladder.
I'm still the same person.
Yes, yeah.
Trust me. So when is Northampton getting rid of their fire truck?
I can tell you that Northampton has been waiting over 2 years for their new ladder to come in, and we've had to actually assist Northampton because we are very limited in this area on ladder trucks. So Northampton has a new ladder ordered, and they ordered it, it's actually over 2 years, I believe now. So they're desperately waiting for it because the truck they have, when they put it up, it tends to just stop. So the ladder goes up and it freezes. So it's not a truck that, again, I would love to find a used truck that I would feel comfortable with that would be half the cost, but we tend to inherit a lot of problems, and that's why we always try to build a minimum of a 25 to 30-year vehicle.
Judy Matrolka, 2 River Drive. Where it says Capital Planning Committee recommends 212, does that mean that one Capital Planning Committee person was against this article?
Capital Planning, David, please.
Would someone like to speak to the reasons why that was?
So, David Phil, from Capital Planning as well as Finance. I was the no vote on capital planning at the time because I needed some more information on how the old truck would be used to put off the purchase of a new pumper truck in North Hadley. And I got that clarified, and then when it came before Finance, I was a yes vote.
So in essence, David, just to be clear, it was a no vote at first, you got the information you needed, then you changed to a yes vote? Okay.
Hi, Nancy Bandman, 17 High Meadow Road. And it really struck me that this is an issue of safety for our firefighters in town, that they need the equipment that they can use to fight these really high fires on large buildings. So I think they do an incredible job, and I think we should just give it to them.
Any other questions or comments concerning the article, Article 5? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. This is a 2/3 majority. All in favor of Article 5? Oh, wait. Somebody had a question? Oh, getting ready to vote. All right, so again, just so that you're clear, this is a vote to put it on the ballot, and it will be voted on in the spring. This is not a commitment tonight except to put it on the ballot. December, I apologize, December. All right, 2/3 majority. All in favor, please signify by raising your red cards. Mike, you did a good job. You can put those down. All those opposed? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I count 5. Okay, I count 5. Motion passes 117 to 5. Article 6, prior year's bills. Move the town vote to appropriate $17,603.20 and transfer funds as delineated in Article 6 of the special town meeting warrant for October 26, 2023, and incorporate reference herein. Finance Committee, 500. Select Board, 500. Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. Amy?
Yeah, this one is very simple. It's just a housekeeping item. So these bills, they came in after the close of fiscal year 2023. So it is required by town meeting to authorize payment after the year closes. So the first one is from Omasta Landscaping. It's $180 coming from free cash. The second one is Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, a charge of $4,269.34, also being funded by free cash. Next, we have Quincy Compressor, $2,103.31, coming from water reserves. R.R. Donnelly, charge is $170.98, coming from free cash. Then we have two different bills from Eversource, one for $142.11 coming from free cash. The other one is $253.46 coming from the sewer reserves. Next we have Comprehensive Environmental Inc., $7,227.68 coming from free cash. Daily Hampshire Gazette, $579.32, also coming from free cash. Finally, we have prior year salary from the library, $2,677, also coming from free cash.
Any questions or comments concerning Article 6?
Edwin Matusko, 116 Stockbridge Street. This will not affect the tax rate as...
Amy?
Sorry, no, it will not affect tax rate.
Any other questions or comments on Article 6? Seeing none, this is a 9/10 majority. All in favor, please signify by raising your orange cards or red cards. Thank you. You can put those down. All those opposed? Article 6 passes unanimously. Article 7, move the town vote to extend the completion deadline for the CPA projects delineated in Article 7 of the special town meeting warrant for October 26, 2023, and incorporated by reference herein. Community Preservation Committee recommends 800, Finance 500, Select Board 500. And Mary, are you around? There she is. Just rip it out.
Mary Thayer, 179 Hockenham Road. I'm chair of the CPA committee. And before we vote on these, just a quick update on where the CPA fund is at. So right now we have reserved funds for approved projects. Available funds, sorry, are $2,164,395. So those are funds that are available for now or future projects. We also have another $1,228,668 in the CPA fund that have already been approved at town meetings over the years, and the projects are still in process. So the total CPA fund is $3,393,063. And we had our biggest increase last year. The CPA fund increased by $631,000. That's both the state portion and the town portion. The state match was 94%. And we Hadley adopted the CPA Act in May of 2004. And since then, we've received almost $7 million, with 42% coming from the state, almost $3 million, and then 58% of that coming from the town. So the state has given Hadley almost $3 million to decide how to spend. Some of the projects that have been already completed in the past, cemetery stones were repaired in all 5 town cemeteries. Walls and fences were also repaired in the cemeteries. The Lake Warner Dam restoration. Hopkins Fields Phase 1 was the junior varsity softball and baseball fields, over 2,000 feet of the community walkway, and started the foundation for Phase 2, which I'm sure you've noticed is well underway. 1,400 acres of farmland has been preserved using in part CPA funds, which is 30 different properties. It's about 9% of the town's land. Zaturka Park restoration, Golden Court windows were just finished. All the apartments there have new windows, and there other funds have been spent in the past at Golden Court. And in the past, work has been done on Town Hall and Russell School and Goodwood Memorial, as well as a lot of other smaller projects. Current projects, in addition to the 4 that were just approved at annual town meeting, are the Town Hall pillars, which are well underway, the Hopkins Fields, the Hockenham Cemetery fence is almost done, and the First Congregational Church steeple repair ran into some issues that they're working through before they can do the work. So that's where we stand. We do, when the town votes on it, we've put in 2-year limit to spend the funds. We're going to probably up that to 3 years in the future because things just seem to take so long from all the various steps. But if somebody's project is coming due, they need more time, they can ask for an extension. So that's what this article is addressing. The town hall pillars hopefully will be done soon, but they won't be done by today. And there were 2 different articles that dealt with the town hall pillars, so we're asking for extensions for those 2. And the Hockenham Cemetery fence is almost done as well, so I'm asking for an extension for that, and that would be 1 year and 2 years. Any questions or comments? I need a second, yes.
Okay, we motioned in second. Thank you for catching me on that, Joyce. Appreciate that.
Hi, my name is Lynn Kozub. I am the sister of Paul Kozub, who is 3 Megan's Way, and he's the owner of 146 Russell Street, the former St. John's the Evangelist Church. Next article? Sorry.
Appreciate the eagerness. Any other questions or comments concerning Article 7 for the extensions? Seeing none, we're going to move to a vote. This is a simple majority. Please raise your red cards if you're in favor. Thank you. You can put those down. Those opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Article 8, Russell Street, former St. John's Church. Move the town vote to transfer $6,550 from the Community Preservation Act Historic Set-Aside Fund and $118,850 from the Community Preservation Act General Fund for the preservation of the exterior of the building at 146 Russell Street, formerly St. John's Church, under the terms delineated in Article 8 of the Special Town Meeting warrant for October 26, 2023, and incorporated herein by reference. Community Preservation Act Committee recommends 700, Finance Committee 311, Select Board 410. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. All right, Article 8. Mary, you're back up.
So we have an application before the CPA committee that the CPA committee recommended, and it's for work at the former St. John's, currently the V1 Vodka building at 146 Russell Street. First of all, this is totally allowed under the CPA Act, even though it's a private building, even though it's a business. A lot of towns have, and cities have put money into historic buildings that weren't owned by the town. And we did have that verified through the state coalition that we belong to. And second of all, because it is public money, there has to be a public benefit. And originally, Paul Kozub had asked for funds for the inside of the building as well as the outside. We restricted it to just the outside, feeling that the public benefit was it's a historic building. We have somebody willing to take care of a historic building that's not the town, which is nice. And it's only the outside that people see. So, you know, one thing to think about is how important is this building to the fabric of the town, to the historic section of the town. It's in the National Historic District. Another thing is we've asked, and Paul agreed, that there'll be a grant agreement and it will include a historic preservation. So whether Paul owns it down the road or somebody else does, it will still be restricted for the outside not to have changes. And we also said, you know, if you should sell the building within 5 years, if this passes tonight, we would want that money repaid because that, you know, he's looking long-term, he says he is, but we wanted some protection that way. Another thought is that building is limited in use. It's kind of landlocked in there. It only has very little parking. There's not a whole lot of uses it can be. So if the town wants that church, former church building to be preserved as a historic building with a historic preservation restriction, this is a good way to do it.
I just want to make one thing and get it on the record here. Is anyone going to be abstaining from this vote? David Phil. Okay, I just want to put that on the record. Ma'am, name and address?
Lynn Kozub, I'm a Wilbraham resident, but I'm reading this letter on behalf of my brother, Paul Kozub, who is not here and asked me to read this on his behalf.
Hadley resident?
I am not.
No, but is
He
Paul?
is, 3 Megan's Way.
Okay, all right. We need to get a vote of the town to allow you to speak.
Okay.
Okay. Do I have a motion to allow her to read her brother's letter?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. This is a majority vote, correct? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your red cards. Thank you. Those opposed, you can raise your red cards. Motion passes. Have at it.
Okay, his letter somewhat echoes what Mary just said. I'm reading this letter on his behalf. I would like to thank the CPA members and especially Mary Thayer. I've been speaking with her about this project for a few years, and her helpfulness and kindness during this process will not be forgotten. I would also like to thank the members of the Hadley Historic Commission and their chairperson, Diane West. For almost a decade, I've cherished the former St. John's Church. As a practicing Catholic, I feel special closeness to this building. This building is, as one of the CPA board members said, the fabric of the town. For the last decade that I've owned this property, I have tried to maintain the same character that it has had since its founding in 1902. Unfortunately, one of the property's biggest strengths, its location in the center of town, is also its weakness, as the property is completely landlocked with only a handful of parking spaces, making it not a great location to operate a business. Currently, I use this building as my office for V1. Today, I'm requesting $125,000 for repairs to the outside of the building, a new roof, repairing and painting the exterior windows, and steeple repairs. I have already spent over $100,000 in repairs to this property since I purchased it in 2014. As part of the agreement with the CPA in town, I have agreed to register this property as a historical building. This will ensure that the former St. John's Church character will be maintained exactly how it is now for future generations. I don't have any intention to sell this building, and I also agree with the CPA board that if I do sell the building within 5 years, I will repay all of the CPA funds. I am thankful for the support of the CPA board, the Hadley Historical Commission, and the countless town residents that I've spoken to who have supported funding this valuable project. I have never felt that I'm the owner of the former St. John's Catholic Church, but rather simply its caretaker. By receiving these funds, it will allow me to maintain the character of this important property at the center, in the center of our town. Thank you for your consideration, Paul Kozub.
Denise Barstow-Mans, 146 Hockenham Road. I'm speaking as a member of the Hadley Historical Commission. The Historical Commission is in support of this request for funding for repairs to the V1 Vodka building, formerly St. John's Church. This building is part of the historic Hadley Town Center and included on the Hadley Town Center listing on the National Register of Historic Places. It is important to the town's landscape and historic preservation. The St. John the Apostle Church was the first Roman Catholic church in the town of Hadley. Before it was built in 1902, Hadley's Catholics attended church in nearby communities as well as in private homes. As new immigrant populations began to call Hadley home, they needed a house of worship. St. John's was the first religious structure in Hadley that wasn't dedicated to congregationalism, representing the growing, diversifying population. As Margaret Dwyer noted in the Massachusetts Historical Commission application to add St. John's to the Massachusetts Cultural Resource Information System, the church was the first of this design to be built by Toomey and Shea. Later, the same plans were used for the chapel at Old Mercy Hospital in Springfield, for a church in Sheffield, Mass., for a Polish church in Worcester, and for the Polish and Ukrainian churches in South Deerfield. So not only was St. John's the first Catholic church in Hadley, it was also a trendsetter for other Catholic churches in the surrounding area. Consolidation of Catholic dioceses in the early 2000s closed the doors to St. John's as a religious institution. For years, it sat neglected and unused until the current owner purchased the property and repurposed it to be a business. According to the Community Preservation Coalition, CPA funds may be used to fund a project on private property, but only if the project is advancing a public purpose. One of the principles of the CPA Coalition is historic preservation. The Hadley Historical Commission recognizes the historic value of this property to our town center, even if it is owned privately. As historic preservation work on the other buildings in this area is currently underway, Town Hall, Goodwin Memorial, and the First Church, to continue the longevity and cohesiveness of the historic town center, the Historical Commission recognizes the efforts of this private business in maintaining the former St. John Church. The property owner has agreed, and it is stipulated in the warrant language that should CPA funds be approved for these repairs, a preservation restriction will be placed on the property. This will ensure that the historic integrity of the property is maintained in the future should it ever be sold. The Historical Commission would also like to highlight the value of having a property owner who is interested in maintaining the historic value of this property. A future sale of the building without a preservation restriction could result in neglect, renovations that degrade the historic integrity of the existing structure, or demolition. Historic preservation work is extremely expensive, and there are not a lot of avenues to go down in regards to grants or other available funding. Historical Commission members presented this information in August, voted unanimously in support of this project and the use of CPA funds. CPA money will not be used for interior work, so funds allocated will not fully complete this project. The owner will contribute financially to the completion of this project. This project will not raise taxes.
Thank you. John.
John Silvestro, 157 Rocky Hill Road. I'm very concerned about this article because I think it establishes a very dangerous precedent, the idea that town taxpayers are using their taxpayer money to finance the rehabilitation of a building that's run by a vodka company. I just think that any private business now can follow this precedent and apply for Community Preservation Act funding, and I think we're heading down the wrong path. Thank you.
Peter Matusco, 19 Middle Street. I think if this was going to be happening by the taxpayers' money, that it should be extended past 5 years to 15 to 20, because it could be 5 years in 1 week. It could be sold, and our taxpayers' money is going into benefiting him. So if he's really serious about this and accepting the taxpayers' money, extending that to a 15 or 20 years, knowing that he's serious, knowing he's not going to sell, and a value to this community. At least a motion or whatever to extending that number from 5 years, extending it. Because if there's any kind of an offer, anybody can take that offer. People say that they don't want to sell. If the price is right, they're willing to sell. 5 years, 1 week, all that money that we've spent is now appreciated to him.
Stay right where you are for a second. Do it. I got to consult town council. I'm not sure how CPA articles for amendments work. Okay, there are motion, I'm assuming you're making a motion. There are motion forms at the back table back there. If you could just write that out, extend no sell time to 10, whatever, 15 years, something like that.
Well,
We can vote on
Not
it.
to no selling it, but at least reimbursing the town within, not after 5 years, but making it, extending it to either 15 years, because after 5 years, 5 years goes at the blink of an eye.
Okay. If you want to grab the form and just write that out on there, I mean, we'll wait for you and then we'll vote on the motion. While he's doing that,
I just have a question. So I'm Dina Friedman, 16 Barstow Lane, and my question is if someone can explain exactly what a historical preservation restriction is, what it would prevent the owner from doing, and what the owner would then be allowed to do anyway, like what advantage does the town get from that?
Town council?
Mr. Moderator, through you, Lisa Mead, Town Council. So a historic preservation restriction is a document that will be approved by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Historic Commission, and it will run with the land forever. And so the preservation restriction would cover the entire outside of the building. The Commonwealth would require, and the town would require, that the preservation restriction include existing photographs and approval for any changes to the building. And then once that's approved, the only changes that can be made moving forward would be like minor changes without coming back to the town and going back to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So it is a restriction on the entire outside of the building and the property itself. The Commonwealth includes the property for the remainder of the life of the property.
Any other questions or comments while we wait for the amendment?
Hi, Nancy Banman, 17 High Meadow Road. So I have real concerns. I think it's a beautiful building, but I believe that the owner decided when he purchased the building that he would assume the responsibility for taking care of it. He had a heartfelt commitment to keeping it because it was a church that meant a lot to him. And I think that's remarkable. As a citizen of this town, I believe he took on that responsibility, not I. And I feel as though there's a separation of church and state issue here too, that this is a church, but it is not a nonprofit any longer, like the Congregational church is. And I believe, as with the previous speaker, that it sets a dangerous precedent that we are taking public money and devoting it to the upkeep of a private business. So, thank you.
Amy Fiden, 5 Cold Spring.
Now, Amy,
Thank-
before you speak, are you speaking as Amy or are you speaking as a board member?
I'm just speaking as Amy. I'm not
Okay, I
speaking.
just want to be clear about
Because it's not
that.
the finance. I've been on the CPA for many, many years. So this is just something I wanted to point out. One of the questions is this is being used for, private versus, a town property. But I wanted to point out that we just saw up there's about 30 properties that we've given for private, and it's all APR land. APR land, when we give money to APR land, why we're giving the money to APR is because what's happening is we're putting a restriction on that farmland, so they can't use it. We're putting, just like a deed restriction, we're putting a restriction on, so it's devaluing that property so that we keep it as farmland. And we give all that money to private individuals. This is similar, in my mind. We're going to look at devaluing the property by putting a deed restriction on it. But when we put the deed restriction on it, we devalue it, but now we're going to keep it historic. So in my mind, it's similar to giving it to a private entity. And I just wanted to point that out.
I'll get to you in a second, Peter. Andy.
Andy Morris Friedman, 45 Roosevelt Street. I'm the vice chair of the Hadley CPA committee. I just wanted to answer questions from 2 of the previous speakers. First, about setting a precedent. Precedent plays no role in the deliberations of the CPA committee. Each project is judged by its own merits. Just because the committee accepted one project on one meeting doesn't mean it has to accept a similar project in the next meeting. Each project is judged by its own merits. So there's no precedent or Pandora's box. These public-private partnerships are becoming more and more common throughout the state as businesses and communities work together to preserve their historic buildings. Without the preservation restriction, the building owner could paint it purple, could take down the steeple, could change the look of the building in any way they want. What we're getting for the CPA money, if town meeting decides to pass it, is that the building will remain, the look of the outside of the building will remain the same as it is now and as it always been. If you feel that it's worth it to have those protections of this important town building, the First Catholic Church in Hadley, then you should vote yes.
Okay, and we have a motion here. I will read the motion. I'll read the motion, and then I'll ask for a second, and then we will discuss it. Move to amend the motion as follows: to extend, if the property is sold within 20 years instead of 5, 20 years, to return funds back to the town of Hadley. Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the amendment?
Mary Thayer, 179 Hockenham Road, Chair of the CPA. I think that, I think there's a good value in my mind, speaking as just me, that to put a historic preservation restriction. I agree it does devalue the property because there's less uses that the property could be used for. I also think in 20 years, our 100,000 who knows if the roof will have been replaced, need to be replaced again? Who knows if all the work that's being done will need, I'm not sure that in 20 years our 100,000 is still worth 100,000. We talked about a limit of how long, and you know, I mean, it's 100,000, which is a lot of money, but it's not $1 million. That 5 years seemed like just some protection for the town. Either way, we're getting the historic restriction put on it, which I think has a lot of value. If people feel that the building should be preserved as part of the historic fabric of the town. So
Okay.
I would vote against the 20 years and in favor of the 5.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments on the, Mike, you all set?
Mr. Moderator.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
Question for Town Council.
Yes.
The applicant has agreed to 5 years. How is this amendment going to affect the so-called contract he would have with the CPA?
Well, the applicant doesn't have a contract yet because the town meeting hasn't approved the expenditure. So if the applicant didn't agree with the 20 years, then there would be no agreement. They wouldn't get the funds.
Or something comparable, something more than 5 years.
Well, right now, we're looking at 20 years. Any other discussion on changing it from 5 years to 20 years? Andy?
Andy Morris, Friedman again, 45 Roosevelt Street. The typical grant agreement for CPA clawbacks like this are 3 years. And the Hadley CPA extended it to 5 years. So it's actually longer than the typical grant agreement throughout the state. I said 3 years, but the committee said 5, and that's what we voted on.
Okay.
Shel Horowitz,
yeah, thanks.
16 Barstow Lane. 5 years seems really short. 5 years is a blink of an eye. I'm going to vote yes on the amendment.
Any other questions or comments on the amendment? Seeing none, we're going to move to a vote. The amendment changes the term from 5 years to 20 years if the property is sold, the Hadley is paid back. All those in favor, please signify by raising your red cards. You can put those down. All those opposed? Hey, Andy. We're going to count. All those in favor, please raise your red cards and keep them raised. We're going to count. On the amendment, yes, this is the amendment. We're voting on the 20 years instead of the 5 years. So keep your cards up, we're counting. $48, you can put those down. All those opposed, please raise your card. This is a simple majority vote. Those in favor of the amendment are 48. Those opposed to the amendment are 43. So the amendment has passed. We will now vote on the article. The amended article, yes, the amended article. I'm sorry? Yes, Mike, come on up.
Everybody, Michael Sarzinski, 14 East Commons Drive. I know that Father Hughes, the former pastor at St. John's, had quite a reputation, but I don't think he put a V on the building. Are we supporting the use of community CPA funds to maintain a corporate logo? I think the owner of that building put that up. That's not historic.
Yeah, George Machoka, Two River Drive. And so I did a little checking online. Is this appropriate in this?
Which,
well, okay.
Let's hear it before we decide.
Okay. So this article appeared in the Gazette in 2019, written by Scott Merzbach. And it talked about the purchase of Paul Kozub. And one of the lines in here.
George, get a little closer to the microphone.
Okay, one of the lines in the article said, Kozub on Tuesday, back in 2019, announced the multi-million-dollar purchase and ongoing expansion of a 133-year-old distillery in Poland, which is where I believe the vodka is made. And the point I want people to understand is the multi-million-dollar purchase and expansion. So the question to me that I'm asking is, why does he need CPA money to, why does he need CPA? Okay, my question is, why does he need CPA money to fix up his building?
If I may, he pulled up an article from 2019 talking about a multi-million-dollar purchase of the property. And so, George, if I may, your concern is, why does he need now $100,000 and something from us?
That's correct. Yes,
Okay,
that's correct.
That's correct. Anyone? No? Okay. All right, nobody's got an answer. It was a worthwhile comment. Any other questions or comments concerning Article 8? Seeing none, we will move to a vote. All in favor of Article 8, simple majority, please raise your cards. Thank you. You can put those down. Those opposed? Hey, Andy. All right, put those down. If you're in favor of Article 8, the article as amended, please raise your card. We're going to count.
This is the amended article. This is the amended article.
Oh, sure. It's not on the chart. Oh. Yeah. That's a big.
All those opposed to the amended Article 8, please raise your cards. You guys are nothing if not consistent. Those in favor, 48. Those opposed, 43. We needed a simple majority. Article 8 passes. So you got that noted, Jess? Yep. Okay. Article 9. Move that we amend the Hadley zoning bylaw, section 28.6 as follows. Amend section 28.6 by changing 35 to 21. Such action will read as follows. Recommended conditions or remedial measures to accommodate or mitigate the expected impacts of proposed development. Failure of boards or departments to make recommendations within 21 days will be referred to the applicant, shall be deemed as a lack of opposition. Planning board recommends 5-0-0. Okay, so it's moved and seconded. Jim, please address.
The planning board unanimously recommends this article. What this article means in English is that a small-scale solar project, typically residential, has two options. They can either put it on the roof of their house or they can put it on a ground mount. If they put the solar panels on the roof of their house, they just get a building permit and go forward. If they put a ground mount in, they need to get a review by the planning board. No special hearing, no special things like that, but the planning board sends out the notices of this application to other town boards. The way the bylaw is currently written, the town has 35 days from the date of submission till the date that the planning board can review this. The planning board meets on the first and third Tuesday of every month. Therefore, 35 days means that at least 6 weeks later is the earliest that somebody could apply to get their review held by the planning board. A site plan approval, if the applicant has their ducks in order, they would apply on the first Tuesday of the month, and their public hearing would be scheduled 1 month later. It seems unfair to the poor homeowner that's applying for a simple waiver to wait longer than somebody that's applying for a big commercial project. Therefore, the 21 days would still allow all other boards that are interested or have any comments to comment to the planning board, and the homeowner would have a review held typically 1 month later.
Any questions or comments?
Edwin Matusko, 116 Stockbridge Street. What happens to the projects in the pipeline right now?
We have none.
Oh, really?
Your brother was approved.
Yeah, I know.
Nothing in the pipeline, all right.
Shel Horowitz, 16 Barstow Lane. Just clarifying, this is strictly about ground-mounted solar. It doesn't apply to any other waivers or procedures.
This is 100% for solar.
Any other questions or comments? This is a 2/3 majority. All those in favor, please signify by raising your red cards. Thank you. You can put those down. Those opposed? You can't vote twice, Bill. Motion passes unanimously. Article 10, move to vote to amend Article 7.5.2 of the Hadley zoning bylaw relating to signs in residence and agricultural residence districts by increasing the maximum allowed signage from 2 square feet to 4 square feet. Is there a second?
It's a one.
What's that?
It's one article.
It's one article, yeah, Article 10, yes.
No, go to the and.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. And also, motion to vote to amend Article 20.2.2.4.1 of the Hadley zoning bylaws related to home occupations by increasing the maximum allowed signage from 2 square feet to 4 square feet, such that the section will read as follows: 1 sign per lot may be displayed, either attached to the structure or at street location advertising the home business would provide. It does not exceed 4 square feet in area. Planning Board recommends 500.
Second.
Thank you.
And yes, I'm Bill Dwyer from the Planning Board, and yes, we did recommend this unanimously to town meeting. It's a pretty simple tweak. We're doing it in 2 parts because the 2 square feet of signage appears twice in the bylaw, so we are amending both of them so that we will be consistent. 2 square feet's really small. The average political sign that will start sprouting in April and May is about 3 square feet. So a 2 square foot sign really has to be custom built. It's not commercially available, and it doesn't actually function as a sign. It's too small to read. So we're just giving this a little bump so that the sign can be slightly larger. Not everybody gets to put up a sign anywhere they want. This would apply to home occupations, people who are maybe for a farm. It'd still be 4 square feet. But again, just trying to be a little more accommodating without going too far.
Any questions or comments on Article 10? Seeing none, move to a vote. This is a 2/3 majority. All those in favor, please signify by raising your red cards. Thank you. Those who are opposed, raise your red cards. Motion passes unanimously. Article 11. This is going to take some explaining, so we'll get people to explain it. Article 11, move the town vote to establish an opioid settlement stabilization fund by accepting the 4th paragraph of the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40, Section 5B, as in Bravo, as delineated in Article 11 of the special town meeting warrant October 26, 2023, and incorporated by reference herein. Finance Committee recommends 500. Select Board 500. Do I have a second? All right. Article 11, Molly Keegan.
Thank you, Kirk. Okay, so in the spirit of time, we're going to provide you with an explanation for Articles 11, 12, and 13. They will be voted on separately. So the background here is that the Office of the Massachusetts Attorney General, along with many other attorney generals across the country, have settled lawsuits against opioid manufacturers, distributors, and retailers for their role in contributing to the devastation that has been caused by the opioid crisis, overprescribing, not providing oversight in opioid abuse of patients, et cetera. These settlements provide that the defendants pay state and municipalities billions of dollars annually with a current end date of 2038 to supplement and strengthen resources for opioid prevention, harm reduction, treatment, and recovery. Hadley is anticipated to receive, over the course of several years, an estimate of at least $300,000. So tonight in Article 11, you're being asked to create a stabilization fund that would be the avenue for us to receive the funds. Article 12, you're being asked to actually fund that stabilization fund to the tune of $45,838 and change. And then Article 13 will allow the town to expend that $45,000 in funding for, and the language reads, any lawful municipal purpose as set forth in Article 2. So we do have some discretion. A question came up at the forum last night. There are no strings attached to this. This is money coming into the town based on that settlement. The only issue we have is just making sure that it's used for an appropriate purpose relative to the opioid crisis and results. I apologize. My colleague pointed out I said Article 2, I meant Article 11.
Any questions or comments concerning Article 11? To be clear, Article 11 establishes the fund. That's all it does at this point. The next article funds it and so forth and so on. So this is for the establishment of the fund, correct? Correct, okay. This is a 2/3 majority. All those in favor, please raise your red cards. Thank you. You can put those down. Those opposed? It's going to be 2-3. I would say 119 to 3. Article 11 passes. Article 12, move the town vote to transfer funds from free cash into the opioid settlement stabilization fund as delineated in Article 12 of the special town meeting warrant for October 26, 2023, and incorporated by reference herein. Finance Committee recommends 500, Select Board 500. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Molly, please. Do it again.
I already did.
Yeah?
Yep.
So just go over real quick, Article 12.
Okay, so thank you for creating the stabilization fund. Now we're hoping that you will fund it with the money that we received from outside the town. We're just moving it from general fund into the stabilization fund.
So this is not Hadley tax money going into this. This is money we've received from the state. Or from the settlement. Right, so there's no Hadley money. Okay. Want to be clear about that. Any questions or comments concerning that? Seeing none, we're going to move to a vote. This is a simple majority vote. All those in favor? Thank you. You can put those down. All those opposed? Motion passes 119 to 3. Thank you. Article 13, move the town vote to transfer funds from the opioid settlement stabilization fund to be expended by the town administrator as delineated in Article 13 by the special town meeting warrant for October 26, 2023, and incorporated by reference herein. Finance Committee recommends 500. Select Board recommends 500. Is there a second? And this simply authorizes the spending of that money for the purposes outlined when we received it. Okay, anything else? Okay. Any questions, please? Yeah.
Nancy Banman, 17 High Meadow Road. Doesn't it's for any lawful municipal purpose, not necessarily for assisting people with opioid addiction or helping to prevent opioid addiction. Is that correct?
We're looking for someone who knows.
So the settlement agreement and the state law requires you to spend it for those reasons delineated in Article 11. And they're very broad, as you can see, but they have some relationship to health and opioid addiction and things of that nature. So it can be prevention and a whole host of things that are listed in Article 11, but they are restricted to that broad category, not any municipal purpose.
Oh, well, it does say any. I mean, the language in Article 13.
So it should, as set forth in Article 11, which
Okay.
sets forth the reasons that you can spend it.
Okay.
Okay?
Any other questions or comments? Andy?
Yeah, Andy Morris, Friedman, 45 Roosevelt Street. Two questions. Does town meeting have to approve any of these future expenditures set up by the stabilization fund? And could you give us an example of how you think these funds might be used or how other towns have used them?
I can tell you what we are just started to have some discussions about, and that is working with the police and the Council on Aging, both who are impacted by the opioid abuse, to have a clinician or a social worker to be able to work with those individuals to do education, to do intervention, et cetera. So we're just in the exploring stage, But Lisa can answer who approves that position, but it would go to the select board first.
And it does not require town meeting approval.
No, once this money is approved, then it's the select board that approves the actual expenditure. But every time the opioid money comes in, the town has to put it into the stabilization account, and then town meeting has to approve it coming out of the stabilization account, which is the exercise that we're going through right now.
Any other questions or comments on Article 12? 13. I'm sorry, 13, yes, I was missing a check mark. Article 13, two-thirds majority. All in favor, please raise your red cards. Thank you. You can put those down. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3. 119 to 3. Article passes. Article 14, last one, guys. I appreciate your patience. Move the town authorize the select board to take or otherwise acquire Birch Meadow Drive and any associated easements, and to accept same as a public way as laid out by the select board as further delineated in Article 14 of the special town meeting warrant October 26, 2023, incorporated herein by reference. Planning board recommends 500, select board 500. Do I have a second? All right. Jane.
This article accepts Birch Meadow Drive as a town public way. The planning board approves the article, and the DPW states that the road has been brought up to the town standard. If you read the other stuff he didn't read, it says we have developers who do subdivisions, and when they finish, they turn the road over to the town. That didn't happen with Birch Meadow Drive, so we are now accepting it to take it.
Any questions or comments concerning the last article, Article 14? This is a two-thirds majority. All in favor, please signify by raising your red cards. Thank you. You can put those down. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Oh, there's one no? There's one no. Okay. So we'll call that 121 to 1. I have an announcement also that Jane has asked me to read. There is a town-wide gathering to bid Haley Wood, Senior Center Director, so long but not goodbye, tomorrow, Friday, October 27th, from 3 to 4 at the Senior Center. Any other business to come before the town? There's a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.